So, hello, Sabrina. Hello.
Hello, how are you this evening?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. So we have Yana with us.
Okay.
And Heather, I think, said she was going to try and make it if she could, but she's got some appointments, so she might not be able to make it until later. But I'm going to try and keep the main core training today to 1 hour. It's more top level, so that you can think about what's going to work for you best in creating this content.
Okay.
Let's see what's going on here. I'm just trying to hide self view, mute audio. I'm trying to learn how to use Zoom. Host has spotlighted my video for everyone. Does this mean that I'm the only one on the camera? I guess so. Okay, so I'm figuring out how to use Zoom. Apologies for the delays. I finally got my screen mirroring turned off. So now if I want to adjust my hair on this side, I can, instead of having to reach for the other side. Okay, so let me start the training. For both of you. I'm really excited to be here tonight sharing this content with you. This is really the content and the approach to creating content that that gave me all the exposure that I ever that I wanted when I was just starting out, when I was really a nobody and I was seeing everybody else in my industry speaking on stage and being promoted as these best-selling book authors and participating in events and being all over the place. And I thought, you know, I want to be a book author. I want to get exposure like that. How do I make people look at what I'm doing and want to participate, or want to promote it, or want to support it? And like most people, like many book authors, I was working a full-time job, 9 to 5, for a company that had no interest in supporting my evening and weekend activities. And I didn't have support. I didn't have anybody telling me exactly what to do or how I could do it, but I knew that if I could create something that had real value for people, that it would really bring, at least it would create a circle of people around me who were influential and who were supportive of the work that I was doing. And I didn't know how large I could make that circle, or how long it would take, but I was confident that if I just produced a conversation that was valuable every single time, that at the very least, I would get value out of it. And at the very least, every single time I produced a show or a conversation, I would have practice and I would get better and I would be more prepared for down the road soon when USA Today calls me and says, Debbie, we need you in studio on Monday morning, come to New York, and we want you to talk about what you're doing. So that when they call me, the biggest media channel, you know, that I could hope to get on, when they call me, so that I'm fully prepared, that I'm fully practiced, that I have spoken to hundreds of people about my subject matter and my topic, and I know what is really important to get across when I have 30 seconds on a really big platform. So what we're going to go through today, I have a document to follow. So I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go through this. We'll see how it goes for you today. I really want lots of feedback. I haven't done this training in 6 years. But not to say that I haven't done a training exactly like this, but I have shared this information Many, many times. I've been sharing it since 2013, and it has continued to bring media exposure and new clients and new opportunities to me since I began in 2013. And in all honesty, in the last 5 years, I've hardly done any shows. I probably did about 100 shows over 2 years. In 2013 and 2014, various kinds of shows, some big, some small. But it gave me a ton of practice and really understanding how to begin creating content that you can repurpose in many, many different ways, that you can begin with very little time, with absolutely no cost, and that it helps you practice it helps you practice what you need to prepare, what you need to practice for the bigger stage that you have coming. We know that you are going to be getting and receiving and developing for yourself bigger publicity stages, potential speaking opportunities, pitching to corporate sponsors, and all of these conversations, all of these questions that they're going to propose to you, you want to have practice answering those questions. And so this is what creating this show will give you, that exercise, will give you that regular practice. And so I am proposing it to you in a way today that I hope will fit very easily into your work and into your lifestyle. It's really meant for people who have very little time. And what I propose that you do when you're doing this is think about the most important things and try not to worry about anything else. Let everything else go. You'll deal with that later down the road when your show is more established, you know, step by step. And you want to see your show grow naturally, because when you first start your show, the first show that you start may very well not be the show that you continue doing. You may make the decision, oh, wait, now that I've done this show, that's not going to work. And I'll tell you, this was exactly my experience when I first launched my very first show in fall of 2012. I had read Mike Michalowicz's book, The Pumpkin Plan, which is about creating concentric circles of awareness, of influence around your business, starting local and adjacent to you, and then growing out to the bigger audiences. And I had read his book, and it gave me the idea that I needed to start this show. And so, of course, I wanted Mike to be one of the big guests that I would have on my show at some point down the road. But I wanted to create the very first episode. And I knew enough, I had enough experience with social media and with producing content to know that if I was going to create a video show, the very first episode, the first time that I try and do it live on the platform, was going to be riddled with problems and rife with, you know, screw ups and all sorts of things. And it's true. The very first episode that I did of Sparkle SOS, which later became Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers, was so riddled with technical problems and me trying to figure out the platform, that the conversation's there, but I made all sorts of really valuable decisions from having that first show experience. And so I really want to encourage you to take the information from tonight and set a date. I want to challenge you, set a date if you can in the next month to do your very first show. Because once you get it started, like the first one is the hardest. It's the hardest because you have to get over all the insecurities and all the imposter syndrome and wondering, why am I doing this? What's the benefit going to be? Am I going to get any benefit out of it? From the very first episode, the only benefit that you're going to get is really learning what you need to know for the next episode. And identifying what you get out of the first episode is you identify those elements of the show that you planned that you don't like, that you need to remove, that you need to fix. and you've been able to identify the elements of your show that you've planned, that you love, and that you want to bring more attention to, that you want to highlight more in future episodes with guests and with audience. And so every episode that you do, each time you do this, no matter what platform, whether it's live stream video or a podcast, or talking to people even in Messenger, and then writing articles based on the interviews that you have with them. It can be on any platform whatsoever. When you're having these conversations, the purpose is it's training you bit by bit without any humongous commitment of time or energy. You don't have to put in hours at a time every time. I would say that this show, in all honesty, I probably put in 4 hours in the week that I did the show, and an hour every other week. So about 7 or 8 hours a month in total production for the show. It gave me so much amazing exposure. It was not, from that level at that time, knowing what I knew about, I wasn't even book publishing at the time. I didn't know that Amazon publishing existed. I wasn't able to monetize the show at the time because, again, I was working a full-time job and learning how to do the show. And I was getting so much great exposure and client opportunities and speaking opportunities and paid consulting gigs as a result of doing the show, as a result of the exposure that the show itself gave me, that I wasn't able to monetize. But if I were to do it now, if I wanted sponsors for my work, I would create a show that could be sponsored the same as by the same organizations that would be sponsoring my book or speaking engagements and other activities. So let's get into the real training. I will be sharing all of the documents that I'm showing you with you tonight. With you. You will have access to this video ongoing so that you can watch it in bits and pieces, and then you'll have access to this document and another show proposal template that I have for you. I've got 2 versions, one that's clean and one that has all sorts of comments. And they're both from 2013 and 2014, the original, but I wanted to show you how easily it can evolve. The show planning documents I wrote with nothing, with no episodes done, just with the idea. I know I need to create a conversation, and here's how I'm going to do it. And I wrote the entire document just like a book proposal, going through each element of here's how I'm going to address this, here's how I plan to address this, here's who I am and why I am the perfect person to be producing this show. Here's who I plan to have as guests. Here's who I plan to have as audience. And you just basically lay out every single detail of the ideal show that you're going to produce. And every single detail, but it's still very top line. You're not making commitments. You're just outlining and future pacing and visualizing really the outcome that you're going to have. So to give you the foundation, the reason why I'm so strongly about this, and this used to be called Celebrity Hangouts on Air. It was based on Google Plus Hangouts on Air, which is now YouTube live streaming videos. But it can be applied to Zoom or Skype, if anybody still uses Skype, or StreamYard, Facebook Lives, pretty much any platform that will allow you to bring in multiple guests will work for this. But the most important thing, the reason why you want to do this, you don't have a lot of time. You don't have money that you want to put into this particularly because you have other things that you need to put your money into. And you want to adjust and change your feeling, your confidence, your sense of awareness and exposure. You just don't want to be invisible anymore. You want to have the feeling like people are talking about you, like there's a little bit of buzz in the industry. Oh, this is interesting. I totally forgot my lights for tonight. Let's see if this makes a difference or an improvement. So you want to create that sense of what you're doing, what you're working on is exciting. And people want to join, and what's coming up next. Who knows? It could be anything wonderful for them to join in. And when you have that sense of people are talking about me, what I do, people are looking at, what I'm doing matters, what I'm doing is making a difference, what I'm doing has a purpose that is bigger than me and bigger than my business and bigger than my books. When you lead with that, then that's where the successful show comes from your heart, from really what you want to create, which this is all about creating strong relationships for you, so that you don't just feel, you don't just have a big ego because you feel confident. You feel confident because you know that you have the support of influencers and people that you respect in your industry, and that they want to see you succeed, that they will help you, guide you through the challenges that you're going to face, because they've been through a lot of things like it in the past. Most of your guests, hopefully very soon, will be more influential and more established in business than you are. And the reason why you want to be interviewing people who are bigger names than yourself as often as you possibly can is because it gives your content high SEO keywords legitimately. Like if you could say, if I wanted to put out a press release and have it get much more exposure and awareness, I would do an interview with someone like a big name Hollywood celebrity. I haven't thought about this yet, but if I were to do an interview with Sandra Bullock, and this is an exclusive interview, I'm going to be doing it live on Facebook, and I schedule it, confirm it with her, put it out on social media 3 months in advance of actually recording the show. I put it out on social media. I start putting up pages and login and opt-in pages. All of that is when anyone searches on Google for Sandra Bullock, there's a good likelihood that they're going to come up with pages on YouTube like this event upcoming, on pages on Facebook like this event upcoming. So the guests that you have on and their keywords, the organizations that you invite, the guests that you invite and the organizations that they represent, those keywords, if your audience has respect for them, it's going to draw human eyeballs and human attention, but it's also going to get that human attention and eyeballs through search engine optimization, SEO value on Google. Now let's see where we are. So the importance is when you're thinking about creating the content for your show, the topic, the main thing, like what is this show about? When people say, when you're telling people I'm doing a show, what are you saying it's about? You want to have something that fits, that you're creating something technically that fits with your abilities. And that's why I recommend something simple like Zoom interviews or YouTube live streaming interviews. So that's the simplest and easiest and cheapest way to bring authorities and influencers into your space to capture their content without them having an expectation of like, why is this not higher quality? Because you're all on the same level playing field of quality. So your production values are the same level that they would expect, that is normal for them. Just because you're new with the technology doesn't mean that their experience is less. So let's see. And the content, the conversation that you're creating with influencers and with your audience and you in the middle, it makes people really look at your content and go, you know what, that show, I wish I could be on that show. I wonder if I could be on that show. I wonder how I could be on that show. Because that's a really interesting conversation. That's a really interesting guest. I would really love to have a conversation with that guest who's representing that organization. And I'd like to have that conversation with them myself so that at the same time I'm getting an introduction to them. So the effort and the cost of this is, it positions you as the person to be talking to in the industry whenever anyone is doing anything that is new, that they want to have exposure for. They're going to approach you and want to talk to you about it, reach out to you. Hey, I'd love to chat with you about what I'm working on now. And you, because you're a show producer and you're always looking for new guests and new subjects and to be the first person to report on something new, you're going to say, okay, sure, let's have a quick chat. And then when they're talking to you, they're going to give you a soft pitch of why they should be on your show and what value they can bring as either an interviewee of the person that you have as your celebrity guest, or they're going to pitch themselves to be interviewed by you for exposure to your audience. And that's really the position that you want to be in, so that everyone is looking at you, media channels, organization sponsors, and audience, all related to your topic. And when you're thinking about your topic, you always want to think about the problem and the solution. The primary purpose that you have in creating this show is highlighting the problem that exists for your audience and highlighting potential solutions and discussing potential solutions. So it's always a pretty similar format in that way. But we do that because this is how to create valuable conversations that endure, that last, that people will continue referring to. Producing a show like this will give you an ongoing, evolving, low cost, high value content created under your name, that is attached to your name, that is on your channels. And not only does it give you all the benefits of relationships with people of influence and authorities, and audience and new names on your email lists, people signing up for your opt-in list, it also gives you, when you create these conversations on video, it gives you, for the rest of your career, you now own the content where you have these authorities and celebrities and brand representatives speaking about the content, the problem and solutions. You own this content, which you can repurpose into any format that you want. And so the reason why I recommend video is because once it's on video, then you can download it and turn audio clips into podcasts. You can take the whole long video and create a series of 10 or 15 short videos and post them to YouTube, and they will all be high SEO value YouTube videos with the authority influencer's name right in the title. And you can turn it into articles really easily if you're going to be writing articles for mass media channels. Once you have your book funnel and email sequence set up, once you're creating your own authority content to attract influencers and media channels and sponsor opportunities to you, so that when you go out and pitch them, here's the really big thing. When you go out and pitch any particular organization, and this is the exact same thing that we do with the press releases, when you go out to pitch them, you want to know that when they Google you to see Is it worth returning their phone call or returning their email? When they Google you, you want to know that they're going to see these videos of you with influencers that matter to them, right? And so you can bring guests into your show with the knowledge that I'm planning on pitching this particular organization, and this influencer, this authority person, book author or organization person, is someone that they want to have more conversations with. So you create that conversation in advance. And then the beauty of using things like YouTube to create your videos and Gmail to email people is if you link a YouTube video into Gmail, it attaches the video viewable right in the email itself. So that they can just click the play button. They can see there's a video right there. They can see your face or the influencer's face. They can see the title of the video on YouTube and go, huh, I need to click this. And if you have a 3 to 5 minute video, a short video linked into your YouTube, or a couple of them with influencers, this is going to make, when you reach out to organizations to pitch them either being on your show or to pitch them as potential sponsors or supporters of your work, whether that be your show or your book, that they're going to see this social proof in advance. It gives them more reason to pick up the phone when you call, when they see your number coming through. It reminds them, it gives them the reason why they go talk to their boss about the budget that they have available. And especially coming up to this time of year, now we're late now because we're the last week of January and everyone's closing down tomorrow. So if you were to introduce yourself to a buyer with budget tomorrow, you still probably wouldn't be able to get any at the end of year. But for next year, it's definitely a possibility. The majority of organizations and corporations, especially those who are spending a lot of money through advertising agencies, the ad agencies will get their budget at the beginning of the year. Literally, the money is put into a bank account that the client pays out of to the ad agency every single month for all of the media buys that they make. And so as a media buyer, one of the things that I would do is at the beginning of the year, when I would receive the budget, $10 million received on paper, in theory, it was in the bank account for the agency to remove as needed for media buys. I would plan out how we were going to spend our budget, and I would always I would plan it out in great detail. Here's the vendor, here's the price, here's the cost, all of these details. Plan it out in as much detail as we could, and there would always be money left over. That we're not 100% sure how the year's going to go. Things change, especially in 2020. We know lots of things changed. And we would always put some money aside as a slush budget, a slush fund. You don't know what it's going to be for. It could be for an emergency, or it could be just for something special that comes up. And when nothing really comes up or you forget about it during the year, at the end of the year in December, they're like, oh crap, we need to spend this money. Where are we going to spend the money? And so it's a great time just to reach out to your contacts, reach out to the people that you've been sending videos, sending emails and messages, and just letting them know about the conversations that you're having with influencers that they might be interested in watching. When you reach out to them in December and say, hey, you might have a little bit of budget left for the year. I just wanted to wish you a happy holidays, see what your plans are for next year, and see if I could, give you a call in January or February, see what you've got on the go right now. And very often, if they do have budget that they're looking to spend and you are on their consideration list, they'll say, okay, what do you have for me that can be $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000 or whatever the amount is that they're comfortable spending with you. Maybe it's not the entire budget. And very often it is going to be based This meeting will end in 10 minutes. Why? What? Let me see. I think I need to upgrade my, my Zoom in the middle. I apologize. I didn't think I needed to, but that's okay. I'm fine with that. Let's see if we can get this to work. Let me just turn off my screen sharing for a second. Boy, that surprised me. You see, there's the technical issues. I'm glad I don't have big name people, and these are quiet meetings just for the mastermind group. But how many licenses do you want to purchase? One license, Pro, $14.99 monthly license. What's going on? Okay, monthly recording. I'm sure I can update. Okay. She's filling cycle. So where does this finish? I'm not really sure what I'm doing. How do I do this? Oh my. Nope. Ah, save and continue. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Add Zoom, United, and continue. Bundle, 2 products, 25. No. Zoom meetings, other available plans, skip. Fingers crossed this goes through and I can just come back to the training. Okay, unlimited minutes, good. Okay, so let me come back to you ladies. I hope I didn't lose either of you. No, I didn't. Okay, let's go back to the screen sharing and I will continue. Zoom, share. Okay, so where was I? So what I was talking about was this, it really gives you, in a few months, you're going to have all sorts of content. You'll have video content created, not a whole lot of it, but you'll have enough created so that you can repurpose those conversations into all sorts, a ton of content that you can use to drive awareness back to the video, back to other pages, and really just to give awareness overall of the work that you're doing and the message that you have to share. That's the really important thing. So, when you're selecting the topic, your content, the style of your show that you're creating, how do you plan that visual? Well, here's how I do it, my own approach. I find either a situation or a show that I want to sort of recreate in a low level version. Like we know The View is a TV conversation show where they have 4 or 5, I think, women around a desk every day, and they talk about current topics. So if you wanted to create a show like The View, you could easily create a show like The View where you have 3 or 4 or 5 regular influential authority guests coming around a round table to discuss a particular topic, and then having audience viewers and guests interacting with you both live and with the content afterwards. Another way, and the way that I personally did it for my show in 2013, and I think in many ways, what made it really approachable for both for regular people who had very little experience with being on video, and for my celebrity guests who had a ton of experience with being on video and camera and in media and all of these things. But I had to give them something different. I couldn't give them better than what they already had because I had no time and no money. I was just dealing with the tools that I had. So what I did was I thought about the most appealing type of get together that I could personally imagine, which would be, for me, would be like a little celebratory dinner party. And years ago, I think this movie is like 2001. The movie Notting Hill with Hugh Grant and is it Sandra Bullock? No, Julia Roberts. Is it Julia Roberts? I think so. Yes, Julia Roberts and Sandra Bullock, and Hugh Grant. So in the movie, there is a scene. Hugh Grant is a bookstore owner in London. Julia Roberts is Anna Scott, a big famous American celebrity in London filming this movie. She goes into Hugh Grant's bookshop in London in Notting Hill and they meet. They have this meet cute moment. And then when they bump into each other later at another time, he has the opportunity to invite her out for a date because he's romantically interested in her. But he's forgotten that it is his baby sister's birthday and he's meant to be at a dinner party at his friend's house for his baby sister's birthday. And so he says, well, why don't you come with me? Like it's not going to be any big fancy thing like you're used to as a celebrity, but it's just, it's a chance for you to just come have a normal conversation. And what this character, Anna Scott, really appreciates about this dinner party is that she doesn't have to perform. She is the big celebrity in the room, but she doesn't feel like it. She feels like a normal person for once. And so for me, I really wanted to create a show where big influencers and people who are regularly on media channels and being interviewed and asked questions about things, where they would come to my show and be asked different kinds of questions and talk about their book and their work in a different way than most of their other, like almost all of their media interviews. They ask the same questions over and over and over and over again. And in preparation for each of my authority, for each of my influential guests, I would do quite a bit of research on what is the topic that they're putting out there in media. And what are they talking about? What kind of questions are they being asked over and over and over again, so that I can be sure I don't ask any of those questions. And the real reason why is not just because you're creating a unique, valuable relationship, a true person-to-person relationship with that influencer, which is the most valuable thing you can get out of all of this. It creates that, and you're creating this content that is search engine optimized value on an ongoing basis, right? So the content of your show, you want to think about your topic, the message, the purpose of your book. And if you have in overarching terms, like here's the message, here's how I'm trying to change the world through my books. You wanna choose the topic conversation for your show based on that. So you want it to be related to. It's not a show about your book, because then celebrities and influencers are not, authority people are not going to want to come onto your show to talk about your book. They want to come onto your show to talk about what's important to them to get this message across. And you have to say, this is important to me too. And so this is where, coming back to the playbook list of questions of Who are the other authors that are in your category that you would like to work with, that you would like to have them having this positive mindset about you, that when they get an opportunity, when a sponsor or a speaking engagement opportunity calls them up and says, hey, we'd like to book you for January 2nd. And they say, oh, crap, you know what? I'm booked that day with a key client. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm so sorry. I would love to join you. Can I please give you the referral? Can I give you the name of somebody else that I really, really strongly recommend that you speak to, because they're just as good as me? And when they want to, when they have to turn down an opportunity because they're double booked, or even because the speaking engagement or the sponsor opportunity contacts them and just is offering way too little money for them. You want them, they want to be able to turn down the opportunity, but leave the door open and turn down the opportunity, but at the same time, still firm and establish an even better, more positive relationship with them, even though they're rejecting them. Right? And so when they have to turn them down instead of accepting the opportunity, one really great way that they can maintain the relationship with the offer, so that the next time, so that they will come back to them the next time, like in a year or in 6 months, they'll say, okay, maybe now you're available. You know, because they don't want to turn the opportunity away forever. What they can do, if they can give the name of somebody else who is practiced, who is connected, who has demonstrated that they are making valuable conversations on this subject matter, they're going to say, let me refer Yana Buckman, or let me refer Sabrina Wiggins, let me refer Heather Davis to you, because I'm confident they will give you exactly what you're looking for within your budget, and hopefully they are available because they're second best to me. And so that's the type of topic conversation that you want. And it's not as difficult to identify that. It might seem right now very difficult, and it will take a couple of hours, an hour at least, I would say, probably, of research online, looking at who are the influencers in this subject matter. So the problem and solution, your primary message, what is the problem that it solves? What is the solution that you offer? What are other solutions that exist in the industry? And who is providing those solutions? What are other angles of conversation that you can address? And so you want to sort of dive down the rabbit hole, dive in, and learn about what are the common conversations. So you want to learn what everyone's talking about, and that has been talked about to death, that you don't need to talk about anymore, that you can just say, okay, we've all talked about this already. Now we're going to move into step 2 immediately and not waste anybody's time, because we don't need to have conversations more than once. We've all talked about this and we're all bored of talking about this. Let's talk about it in a different way. And the way, when you dive down the rabbit hole and you're making notes, you're taking notes of where they're having their conversations, where these influencers, which media channels, what events, on what stages, who are they sharing the stages with? So you take notes of all these details of the organizations that are involved and the media channels that are supporting them, and how often these events happen. When you're observing and consuming the content that already exists from the position of, I'm planning my own show, you want to be really aware as you're going through the process, and this let me know how this how you feel about this. You want to be really aware. For me, it's in my gut, but it's the conversation in my head. when I'm reading the content or I'm listening to the video and I'm thinking, if that were me in this conversation, I would be saying this. This is what we need to talk about. Why is no one saying this? That's what you want to start focusing on. Whatever it is that gets you really worked up, whatever gets you passionate, whatever you know you can come from your own place of authority on the subject. And it's just an angle. It's not, you're not covering the entire topic in general. You don't have to be the expert on everything in your industry. When I did it, I became a consultant on Google Plus Hangouts on Air for organizations. And I was competing with other live stream consultants because there were other live stream platforms at the time. But if they wanted to use Google Plus Hangouts on Air in Canada, they came to me because I was only, I knew nothing else about any other platform. And I was fully focused on Google Plus Hangouts on Air. And I was the only person who dove so deep into this little tiny inch wide, mile deep niche. And a lot of people, Mike Michalowicz taught me this, the riches are in the niches. So instead of saying, I want to talk about children's books in my show, and I'm going to have the biggest children's book show ever, which is going to be really difficult to create. You want to say, I'm going to talk about children's books that address these people with this problem, and who this solution, this particular solution might work for. I remember when you're setting up your Google alerts so that a couple of times a week you're getting an email with all of these things. When you're looking at this content, look at and observe yourself. What is it that they're not saying that they should be saying? And it could be the media channel, it could be the guests, it could be the audience. That's what you want your show to be about. That's the important subject that doesn't exist, that you can have conversations with the influencer, and you are creating brand new, unique content under the influencer's name that exists on Google. So when people search for that influencer's name, your content comes up and you're the only person that they have to select that's talking about that particular part, that particular element of the subject matter, right? Makes sense? So it makes you exceptional. You don't want to be popular. You don't want to be like everybody else. You don't want to be repeating and doing and boring as hell. You don't want to be competing for mediocrity, which is what average is, which is what everyone does, which is what safe is. What you want to be is exceptional. And it's okay to take risks, and it's okay to have technical snafus. It's okay even to have bad days where you're not a great interviewer. It's all practice. It's all practice. And trust me, the worst shows that you ever do will still have incredible benefit. I've never once done an episode that I regretted, that I said that was not worth the time and energy that I put into it. So I want you to just really focus on the topic and the value that that topic brings to the audience, and the fact that that unique subject matter brings value back to you. This is where the real alchemy of creating awareness for your message and for yourself comes from. So show name, when you're naming your show, you really want to focus on the problem solution. So you're using SEO optimized words. The frequency of the show that you can do, I do recommend that you do a monthly show so that you can gain momentum and practice. Just to start, you're not committing too much energy or time to it while you decide what's working best for you. And the reality is you're not going to be making a ton of money off of your show activities. at the very beginning. And so you don't want to invest a whole lot of time, because the more time and money that you invest at the beginning, the more that you have to make, the more you have to monetize the show in order just to have a profit. And if you invest very, very little time and you focus on really what is the key outcome is establishing a positive relationship with an influencer. Then you only focus on the activities that further that relationship with the influencer, right? And everything else is not as important. I could be creating beautiful slides for these shows, and I intend to for the future. But what's really important is that I get the message across to you today, that I inspire you and fill you with confidence that you can do this. The other things to consider for your show, and I think Sabrina and I were talking about this in the group when I posted that I just noticed Oprah launched a podcast, particularly to talk about one specific book. She's doing an 8-episode podcast with one author from one book. And this is a limited series podcast. And this is very similar to what she did 12 years ago when she blew up Skype. For 8 weeks, she did an 8-week masterclass with Eckhart Tolle, who's the author of The Power of Now, which is a very, just an incredible self-awareness book. She did an 8-week masterclass in 2008. I think it was every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. She had like 20 million people on Skype viewing. It was just insane. But there's no reason why you can't say, I want to focus on one particular subject for 5 or 6 episodes. And then at the end of it, I'm going to review and see what I want to do next. You can do a single episode with a particular event or a particular individual. If that opportunity comes up, there's nothing stopping you. And there's incredible value in doing a single episode, because then you can have it sponsored afterwards. After it's recorded, then you can go out and pitch it and sponsor the opportunity, use it as a way to open doors for you with a single special episode. If you don't want to create a series of 12, if you don't want to commit to every single month, just start with one. Decide, here's the conversation topic that I want to have. Here's my ideal guest and 4 or 5 alternates that I could have. Here's the audience that I want to have asking questions along with me. Yeah, so there's lots of options. I don't recommend weekly though. And a lot of people, so many recommend doing weekly shows. I say, do not do weekly shows. You can, if you choose to, give it a go, give it a shot. But I guarantee you cannot put as much energy into the relationship with the influencers when you're worried about booking your next 2 and 3 shows, when you're dealing with details of your next 2 and 3 shows, as well as your last show. And you have to redo it every single week. There is no possible way you can do that. You will not get big name influencers into your show. You'd just be working so far behind for no money at all, putting in so much time and energy for what? For no relationship with influencers, a mediocre topic conversation that you produce on high volume. Like there's not as much value to that. So be very, very careful if you choose weekly. I like a monthly show because it just gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of range to do the work when you want. You have one specific day that you know you're going to have to do. And it goes on from there. So there are 3 critical groups. I want you to keep this in mind, what is different about this type of show from what everyone else recommends. Like most people are talking about, come on, do a live stream every single week to your audience where you're expressing your expertise. Or what they will do is they will interview other people, very often up and comers, people who don't have much authority or influence or audience, to demonstrate their ability to help others, which is great because it creates great value, but it does not create the value that this type of show will create when you bring in both authority, influencers, and audience on the other side to watch. So what you're talking about, the audience, I put them first. These are critical groups of people who are going to help make your show so much easier for you. They're going to help schedule celebrity guests. I literally had guests on my show saying, when Chris Guillebeau came on my show, he's the author of the $100 Startup and really big name book author for small business owners. When he came on my show, I didn't book him at all. I didn't have to do any of it. One of my guests said, hey, I met Chris Guillebeau. I know him not very well, but he's coming to an event next week and I'd love to see if we could get him on our show. And I was like, oh, wait, he said our show. Isn't that awesome that my guest is looking to book influencers on my show because he feels ownership of it, because he's participating in it. And if you want people from the outside to be helping you with your show, you want to bring the value, get the value, bring them into it so that they get value from it as well. So who are the audience that you want to bring in with you to talk to your influencers and authority? These are 2 groups of people. One is the person who wants to consume and participate in your content with the influencers so that they can get free and highly valued help from authorities and influencers that they admire. I don't know what just disappeared on my screen down here, but we'll see if that comes up. And then 2, there are groups of people who are watching and consuming your show. They want to get help with minimal effort and expense, right? So they're not really in a place where they want to talk to the influencers and authorities themselves. But they want to watch the show because they're getting value out of it. So the people who participate in your show, they're identifying and relating to the leaders and authorities. They will, when they are guests on your show with authorities who they admire, they are very, very, very likely to share your show, showing your show. Hi, Heather. She did come in at the end. Show your show with, oh, I know who disappeared. It was Yana who said that she had to go early. And then Heather is coming in. So let me bring Heather in. Hello, Heather. Okay, yeah, so hopefully Yana will get back to this video. And Sabrina, I hope you're still with me. Heather, welcome. I'm just gonna put you on mute, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through the primary training. So we'll go into Q&A soon. And I have some documents and other elements for everyone to refer to. So really just reviewing the people who are going to be on your show, the audience. And this is the critical part that I see so rarely. When you look at other people doing shows, they're speaking themselves to the camera, or they're interviewing another person, but they almost never, ever, ever bring audience members into their show to interview the influencer on their behalf. And I tell you, the fact of the matter is, you as the person who's bringing the audience to the influencer, you get just as much benefit. You get so much more respect and appreciation from the influencer for not hogging all of the attention, because they see that all the time. So it brings really, really great value, and it lets your audience who's watching know that the more that they participate, the more that they reach out to you, the more that they talk to you, the more likely they are to have the opportunity to participate and speak with influencers in the future, and to establish their own relationship with these authorities and influencers. You establish a relationship that is unique with them, and every guest and person that you introduce has the opportunity to establish a relationship that is unique with them. It is super valuable, and as I'm telling you, like, almost nobody does this. So when you're creating your show with this in mind, with the audience of who is the influential or authority guest that I want to bring in, and who are the audience members that are going to be just thrilled to have the opportunity to see themselves on TV or on a show, talking to this influencer that their friends and family also will recognize. It's exciting. It's exciting for them. And you become well known as the person who is the gatekeeper, who has access to influencers, for everyone who is new and aspiring, for everyone who's upcoming in the conversation. It opens the door for them to approach you, and to propose what they've got in mind, which is the exact position that you want to be in. You don't want to always be out pitching everybody else, proposing everybody else, doing all the work. You want people coming to you and saying, listen, I have an idea, I'm passionate about something, I'm working on something. Can we talk about it? Can we see how we can participate together and get involved in pushing this message, this purpose, this goal forward? Then, of course, what's really obvious, the person, the group that is the obvious, the celebrity. These are authors, influencers, authorities, brand representatives, organization representatives. They want to be on your show to expose their new content or their message to your audience for feedback. And they want to be on your show so that they can be introduced to the other panel guests, the other interviewing guests, who some of them may be media journalists. Right, so it's valuable to them, to the authority and influencer, to come onto your show, because not only do you have them as an authority, but on occasion you also have in the panel of interviewing guests, you also have media and journalists joining the show, and sometimes they are the author and influencer person, and so you might have more than one media journalist on your show in an episode. Depending on who is the featured guest of that episode. And then media journalists, the reason why they'll want to participate in your show is because it is, for them, it's creating content, it's creating ideas, it's discussions that they can take literally a quote from the authority, from the influencer, from your show, and put it into their next article or put it into their next podcast, or because they're creating the content. So they have some ownership over the ability to repurpose and recreate. Oh, Heather dropped out. Okay. Hopefully she'll be back. If not, she'll get the opportunity to watch the video. So the last piece, the biggest piece, this is, I want the very first thing for you to do after you have answered the playbook questions and you figured out who are the other media channels, authors, influencers, and organizations that are talking about the same message that you're talking about. Once you've answered those questions and you know who those people are, Then I want you to sit down and start planning your show proposal document. It's the same thing as a pitch document or a template. And I have two things. One is a training video, which is, this is an over the shoulder training that I did initially, I believe in 2014. It's an hour-long video that takes you through the show proposal document that I will give you the link to as well, that you can take a copy of and adjust, or just, you know, refer to as you start on a clean blank document yourself. You can refer to this video and follow along, because each section of the proposal document has a purpose. And very much like the playbook questions that I proposed to you, each section of this proposal document is meant to make you think and make a few decisions. They're not written in stone in any way, shape, or form. You can change everything, but it's very much like you're creating your book proposal, which functions in the same way for you. It works as a pitch document, or the place where you have all of the information that you use for your pitch document. And it also works like a business plan for you, so that you're not constantly trying to think of these things in your head, that you just have one document that you can refer to. And then when you hire an assistant or a VA, or you know, like anyone that you want to bring in to participate in the show, you can share this pitch document with them. So it's highly, highly valuable. This was the key element that really made, that gave me the exposure. It wasn't just my show, Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers. Prior to that, I did a 6-week training on Google Plus Hangouts on Air, and it was, or sorry, I did a 6-week training, but I also later did another show called Scandal Spin. And this was, I did this show really just as a demonstration of how, what type of content could be created using the Hangout platform. And I wanted to, this was really the show that I felt like I could potentially have it monetized and sponsored by TV networks. So what I created was an after show conversation about Scandal. So there was this TV show, I don't know if you've ever watched it, called Scandal with Kerry Washington, where she is a PR expert. And she works with the government in Washington, D.C., and she's having an affair with the president, or she's in love with the president. So it's a really good show. It was really popular around 2013 and 2014. And so coming up for I think this was season 3 or season 4, I proposed I'm going to do an after show after every single live episode on television. As soon as the show ends, we're live on a second screen experience on your computer. And we're going to be talking about that episode. And so I start the pitch document with really a few paragraphs about the show itself. Where the idea from the show comes from, what it's about. You know, ABC and City TV in Canada were airing the shows. And so I wanted to put the details down on paper in advance. All of this was written in advance. I actually, I did reach out to City TV locally. But I wasn't able to get much movement with them. But it was an idea, and it was something that, had I continued beyond, I think I did only 4 episodes. Had I continued beyond, it had potential if I had continued. But more than anything, it was for me an opportunity to create this document, to see how the planning works. And once I had created this document, everything was so much easier. It was so much easier to schedule the weekly show, because that was probably the only reason why I did a few episodes, was because it was so freaking hard to do weekly shows. So even though I knew exactly what the content was going to be every week. So I talk about who I am and why I'm the right person to be creating this show. Some of my past experiences, where and when the show is going to be recorded, and who the weekly hosts are, and what the schedule of the show will be. So we'll have a mid-season hiatus along with Scandal show on TV networks, and returning to the airwaves after the Olympics on Thursday, February 27, 2014. And because I knew in advance the exact show schedule, how many episodes and when they'd be airing, I was able to plan my own show around it. Then I created a show format where I went through details of, in a 30-minute show, here's what a general show is going to look like, right? You start with the opening, talk about the show that we just watched. Here's a few key points, some takeaway, some discussion, and then done. And 30 minutes. I also came up with a whole bunch of connected conversations. So what else could we be talking about? It's not just talking about Scandal. It's not a show about the show. It's a show about the subject of the show. And so what I really wanted to do was create a conversation that had value, not just entertainment, but actually value for them. And so I thought, okay, you know what, if I was going to do sizzle reel or promo for my show, here are the things that I would want to say we're talking about in the show. And connected to the show Scandal, I thought, okay, we can talk about being the fixer in your business, your organization, and we can give you a personalized spin on what this situation is that you're dealing with. If you've got a scandal in your business, talk to us about it in the Scandal After Show, and we'll give you a spin on that story that you can put out there that might be better for your brand. If you've been fired in a very public way from your job, if you've been impeached, we could talk about that. We could talk about going to Camp David, going on vacation in your business. All of these connected, related topics that the audience, when they see it, if they're fans of Scandal, they go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I want to tune into the show to talk about that. Then I talk about production, which is who is producing the show, who is responsible for making every single decision, ultimately who owns the show. It's me. I own the show. I'm making every single decision. No one can buy anything from the show without it going through me. No one can get anything from the show. No one can get on the show without it going through me. It's me. It's all me. So you talk about who your production is. And if you're going to hire other people, other experts, you can choose to either still take the authority and the position of the primary, you're the writer of your book. Even if you have a ghostwriter, you're the author of your book. You're the producer of your show, even if you hire people, or you can hire people who are known and have that be a part of the value that you sell when you're pitching sponsors, is that you're working with a producer who has experience working on this show and that show and the next show. And they worked with very big name guests, blah, 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 blah. So that when a potential sponsor looks at your show document, looks at your pitch document, and they go, oh, look at who's producing this show. I really trust that they have the experience to produce a show that will be good quality. So yes, we'll give them money, right? That's the whole reason why this document exists, so that you can lay out in advance for potential sponsors and potential supporters all of the reasons why you will be able to fulfill everything that you're promising, all the experiences that you have, the people that you're bringing in to work with on your show, the support that you're getting. You could partner with another book author or another person and say, let's produce a show together. And I did that as well. I partnered with somebody else to create a show. And it was so much easier because I only had to do half the work. Right? So you can do that as well, and you would put that information into the production section. So you're highlighting the value. And so I put here Social Sparkle and Shine, that's my business. We had previously, or by the time I was launching this show, I had already done a consulting for almost $40,000 for the University of Waterloo Stratford campus for their Commerce Lab discussion that they wanted to have run on Google Plus Hangouts on Air. And because they wanted Google Plus Hangouts on Air, and I was the only Canadian consultant focused exclusively on Hangouts on Air, they came to me and asked me for a proposal. And when I pitched her $13,000 for the proposal, which was humongous in my mind, she said, Debbie, you know, we're looking at other consultants, but there's nobody else really that we want to work with. We want to work with you. You're the one who's focused on Google Plus Hangouts on Air. You're the one who's writing a book about Google Plus Hangouts on Air. We want to work with you. Our budget is bigger. She said, can you increase the size of this proposal? And I said, yes, I definitely can. And I got a little bit of a sense from her about how much bigger her budget was. And I ended up pitching $35,000 and getting it. So you never know what's going to happen. But when you're creating things like this, this is what will happen. They will see what you're doing and go, oh, we like that. We want something like that ourselves. And who are we going to hire to do it? We're going to hire Sabrina or Debbie or Heather or Yana to do it because they have experience. And even if we're not hiring them to do it, even if we're only hiring them to consult for us to do it, the reason why we're choosing them is because they have this past experience that gives us the confidence that our money will be well spent. That we could not have hired a better consultant to guide us through this process. Then a very, very important thing with all book proposals, with all show proposals, with all sponsorship proposals is you want to talk about how are you going to be building the audience? How are you going to be marketing and promoting the show? So that there is an audience who will be watching every influencer and every sponsor and every interviewee. So you want to talk about what are you going to do and where are you going to be giving exposure to your show and to your guests and to your subject matter. And you outline it, basically. So what I had for me, I was using the hashtag, well, ABC and City TV were using the hashtag scandal to have conversations live. People were using the hashtag, not the networks, but people were using the hashtag to have the conversation live. And so I would go in while the show was live, while I was watching the show with everybody else, I would go in and tweet using the hashtag scandal and also talk about the show that's coming up. As soon as the show is done, join us at this link right here. We're talking about the after show. And outlining on the document all of the places where you're going to put and promote your show. And all of these elements, I want you to feel like, even if you just come up with one to start with on this document, that's okay. You don't have to have a whole lot to start with. You just need to have a very basic outline, a very basic business plan of how you're going to do this. I also had the idea of having an affiliate program when there were blogs that are particularly blogs about the show Scandal, where they have audiences that are enthusiastic fans of the show. I would pay them $10 to embed my live stream video onto their blog, onto their website. And that would give extra audience. And you can document how much audience you get from each person. And then add that to the value of the show when you're talking to potential sponsors and they say, how many audience do you have? You can say, well, I have syndication agreements so that they will be airing the show live as I air it on their channels to their audience, or they'll be playing the replay to their audience in blogs. I have syndication agreements with these particular websites and influencers, and they get an average of 50,000 views a month. And when we place the show on them, we tend to get 1,000 views to the show. Now, anytime a sponsor asks you about how much audience you get, the first thing you want to say is, how much audience do you want? Because the truth of the matter is, especially the bigger organizations, if they spend money on advertising, they don't just spend money on creating the ads, they spend money on the media space to drive the audience to the ads. And so really what you're creating is a media channel where you can drive as much audience as necessary to the video that you create on behalf of the sponsor. So the sponsor says, okay, I want to sponsor your show. You're going to be talking about this particular topic. I'm going to give you $10,000 and I want to know that we're going to reach at least 200,000 viewers within this particular audience demographic. Easy, 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 easy. Because then what you do is you buy views for the video on YouTube or wherever you're posting it. You buy advertising traffic, you buy views of the video of the target audience that the sponsor wants. You pay for it with the sponsor money, and then the sponsor is happy. Right? So no matter how much audience the sponsor wants, they're already buying audience. They understand where audience comes from. They don't expect, they're hoping that you're going to say, oh, my audience comes to me organically. And maybe some people are really lucky and they're viral and they do have an organic audience that they never have to pay for. But I'm telling you, that organic audience is mixed. It's not specific. It's not niche focused. It's not problem and solution focused. It's not audience focused the way that your clients want your show that you're producing with them, for them, to be. And the best way to create a really targeted audience is just to price your sponsorship package, knowing here's how much it costs me to buy a particular amount of traffic from a particular audience. And that's something that we can start to work out over the next couple of weeks. We can get into more detail about how you buy particular audiences for your shows. But to be honest, I don't recommend that you spend your own money. I don't recommend that you do it until and unless you have an actual sponsor who regularly pays for audiences, because there's no reason to. It doesn't matter when you have a big name influencer and you're having unique conversations. It does not matter how many viewers there are. It only matters when the one important viewer watches. That's where all your money is going to come from. It's going to come from that one viewer. And the one viewer who is watching your video because it's unique content, because they respect and appreciate that influencer, and they have never seen them talk about this particular subject in this way before, and they want to consume it. And now they like you because you brought them new content. So the next section of the overview is about the hosts. So you talk about who your plan are for the hosts. Is it going to be you? Are you going to have guest hosts? Will you have a different host every week? Will you have a co-host? What is it? Is it Good Morning America? No, Kelly and Michael. Kelly Ripa and Michael Strahan, I think. I don't know if that's his name. They do a morning show, so they are co-hosts of the show. Maybe it's not even Kelly Ripa, and who's she with? She's with that other guy now as her co-host. I guess Michael left a long time ago. Anyways, you talk about the guests, who you're planning to have as special guests on your show, who you're planning to have as promotional partners. Now, this is really key. And this is not, you're not making a commitment, you're just triggering the idea in the potential sponsor's mind that you're already planning to go to their competitors. And that if they don't talk to you about this particular opportunity, you're going to go straight to their competitor, and their competitor is going to scoop it up, and they won't get to talk to you anymore. Right? So it's really, really, really key that you get very, very clear and you list potential sponsor organizations that you would like to work with. So let's see, what did I write here? All promotional contracts are negotiated exclusively by myself, 20-year veteran of traditional media buying and exclusive sponsor packages. So I just talk about some of my experience and what qualifies me to be selling these sponsor packages. But I was pitching advertising agencies who knew me a lot of the time when I was doing this. But, you know, I've worked for Just for Laughs Festival. I worked with the Toronto International Film Festival. I've worked on Olympics for Visa Canada. So I have some understanding of what type of organizations might get value from this type of content. And so I list them. ABC and City TV, who are the brands that are airing the show that want the most audience. Visa, MasterCard, any other shopper, beauty, especially any brand that has African-American target consumers, because Kerry Washington has darker skin. Any O.com, this is Oprah's, oh no, not O.com. O.com is a shopping website, or justfab.com for shopping styles. Like Olivia Pope, which is the character on Scandal. You could do telecom or communications, identity theft, financial services, automobiles, live streams, headaches, coffees, alcoholic beverages, blah, blah, blah. Right? So lots of potential types of organizations that I thought could connect to this show and this particular audience. When you're choosing for your own, you're going to get a lot more specific. And it might not be such big names, but it might. And there's nothing wrong with either, both. You know, the more that you include, these are all, what this does is it triggers the thought in this prospect sponsor that you've sent the proposal to. It goes, oh, if they're with Tim Hortons, and you're saying, I'm going to go pitch Starbucks, and you're talking to Tim Hortons, they're going to go, oh shit, is she going to go talk to Starbucks and not even give us the like, are we competing? Are we racing for an exclusive sponsorship opportunity? Right? So these are things you want to think about. And then one of the last sections that I put in is a potential schedule. And it is critical, critical, critical that you have a schedule for your show outlined, whether you're doing one episode, a single episode, a limited series, or monthly. It does not have to be the exact same time of day or week every time. All you have to do is think in advance, what is the day that I would like to produce my show on? You do not have to produce the show on that date, but it's important that you give them dates in this document so that they can see you have at least taken that step to plan specific dates. Now, when you reach out to influencers, you want to say, these are the dates when I'm planning to record. But if none of these dates works for you, I'm happy to schedule something special and unique for you, and let's make it work for you. I'll find a time that works for you. You tell me when works, and we will make a special episode for you, right? Because you want the influencer more than you want the show at a particular time. Like the show at a particular time doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many live audience viewers you have, because after the show is done, every single show that's ever been produced in history, the live recorded show has very, very few viewers, right? And there will always be a time limit up to, like, you can only promote participation in the live show or viewership of the live show until the show happens. And then after that, everything you're doing is driving audience. So don't worry about the number of live viewers that you have. If you have none, if you have 5, if you have 50, it's all good. The important thing is the audience that you drive to the show afterwards, either through organic or paid by sponsors. So you write out the show, you can put the topic theme in, you can put the primary host in, and what you've got coming up for them. And I really outlined all 22 episodes of the show. And then I put in my contact information, and that's the end, right? So that's the document. I'm going to give you also this document. This is actually the template. Hangout Producers was the name of the training program that I was running. So this document has highlighted comments. Every single element of the document has a highlighted comment that gives you a little bit more information on where and when. The first couple are dated from 2014, and they're specifically promoting the training that I had available in 2014. But after that, you get into, so here's the training video. And then, so let me just close this so we have a little bit more room. You can register for the 6-week course. You can watch the training video. This is the over-the-shoulder video that I'm giving you. And here, it gives you information on this section. So this section that is highlighted is the sample show format. And it gives you a little bit more information on each piece. So you can refer to this as you're creating your own document. I don't know if you prefer to start from a blank document or if you prefer to start from a template like this and then put in your own information. All of that is good. I'm good with all of it. Whatever's going to work best for you. So that's the end of the information that I have for tonight for beginning to plan. Sabrina, you're still here with me. Do you want to spend a couple of minutes talking if you're still here? Oh, and I've got chat. Yes, you are still here. Hello. Kids, Yana, yeah, she did say that she was going to have like an hour with her kids. So she left right at 7, which is fine. So what did you think about that? Do you have questions, concerns? Do you feel overwhelmed? Is it clear?
That was a lot. That was a lot.
Okay,
And
thank
so I
you.
think that, with the resources, I'm gonna need to go back and kind of just like look through it, listen to the video again so I can kind of take in, what you said. And I was trying to make some notes over here, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna need to listen to it again so I can really be a little more detailed. But I do like the fact that you have templates and kind of give an example of something that you did in the past to give us an idea on how to take this show, to the next level. Um, but like I was telling you earlier in the group, um, my idea or my thought was, kicking off for 2021 is pretty much based around my book and just having a few episodes talking about um, trauma and shooting victims, and just having a few episodes having a conversation about that, because what I'm doing in my research is I'm learning that it's so many shooting victims out here that, there's been news stories, but it's not been like headline news. And it's just interesting to see so many stories of people and the burden that is taken on their families, by if you're taking care of a paralyzed person or somebody that's bedridden now, that traumatic experience, that psychological toll that is taken on the person, the financial burdens, all of those things that, now is taking a whole different turn in a person's life. So I just wanted to have that dialogue because that's part of what my book is about, with my dad being shot, and then a part about, the kids going to therapy. So I think that it's so important that we have that conversation, especially in the Black community, because it's like taboo. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll pray it away. We
yeah,
don't need anybody to know about this. We don't want, or therapy is for crazy people.
yeah,
So I want to
yeah,
be able to have that conversation.
yeah.
Um,
So you're planning to have some therapists?
Yes, I'm looking to try to find a couple of therapists that I can reach out to come on to the show. But just being able to also just allow people to kind of talk about it and share their story,
Hmm.
because it's so many people that's going through the same thing, that especially in the African American community, need to understand it's okay to get therapy. You can't process this stuff on your own and think that you're going to get better. You have to talk it out. You need a sounding board, somebody that you don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're
So,
not a therapist.
no, I'm not a therapist.
So you'll bring therapists and other mental health
Yes,
organizations
yes.
that also support this conversation and this message that
Hmm.
it's important to have therapy, talk therapy, and it's important to get rid of the stigma around therapy,
Hmm.
especially when in the African American community talking about trauma and shootings,
Yes,
gun violence,
yes,
basically.
yes.
Yeah, that I think that is it sounds really good, because it is a very important subject matter to you that
Hmm.
you're passionate about, that you have a purpose of why you're putting the show together. That's the key thing that will allow you to reach out to organizations and say, I'm putting this show together. It's super important. I'm going to do it whether you participate or not, but I really need to make sure that you're aware of it. So
Right.
hopefully you will participate. Hopefully you will support me. If you don't support me immediately, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I reached out to you before we started so that you could watch the first few episodes, because I
Hmm.
will be reaching out to you again in a few episodes. If you can't support us yet, I'm going to come back to you and see if maybe you want to be a guest later.
Yeah.
Um, and that way you're not reaching out and saying, hey, I'm a book author, I'd love to have you buy 1,000 copies of my book.
Right.
Right, you're not asking for something from them, you're offering to them something
Right.
that supports what they're working on, what's important to them, which happens to be the same as what's important to you.
Yes.
Do really keep in mind though, um, you want to balance who you're interviewing on the show, on each episode. You do want to have the people who are sharing the stories, but of course, because you're not a mental health professional, or you're not a therapist, you can't take that role. So I want you to have other people there, and you're more of the host than you are the interviewer every single time, right? So your guest comes in and tells their personal story of being involved in a shooting and how they overcame the trauma, or how they dealt with it with their family and friends, and in society, how they felt about it. But also at the same time, and this way you don't have to do a whole lot of talking or really interviewing of your authority guest yourself. When you bring in the authority to be, really, they are the big name interviewer of your show. It's sort of like you're giving up your stage to them for your guest.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Right. So keep that in mind. You want to have the authority influencer, the person who is representing an organization that helps people. You also want to have the guest, and then you can think about, it doesn't have to be the first episode, it can be later on. Think about inviting journalists who write about this. So you always want to have those three groups of people in every single episode. And the media journalists don't necessarily have to be in every episode, but it's great if they are.
That's good. That's good.
Right. And that way you have marketing and promotion from the show with media channels who know how to do it. And, like one tweet from them can be big exposure. You have marketing and promotion from your audience member who's coming on to share their story and to talk with the authority, the influencer. And they're likely to share your content with their whole family and friends because they want to show them speaking with the influencer, especially if it's someone that is well known to admire. And media channels, the authorities and influencers, of course, they have the platform themselves to share. So the role that you're taking on is not so much the talking head of the interview. You're not trying to make yourself famous or make yourself an authority by taking over the show or by having the most interesting conversation or contributing the most interesting conversations to the show. The way that you're becoming known and the way you're becoming an authority is by connecting your audience with the people that they want to be connected with. And the people that they want to be connected with now know you as someone who connects them to the audience that they want to be connected to.
Right.
So instead of taking value out of the situation, you're giving value to everybody. And that's that. Then it doesn't matter how much audience you have for the live episode or after. It doesn't matter how much preparation you do. It doesn't matter if you're even in 2013, when I was doing my Sparkle SOS book authors and publishers, I had a couple of like relaxed episodes during the summer. I'd started in the spring. Actually, Guy Kawasaki was my first celebrity episode, first celebrity guest in January. And then every month I did an episode with a celebrity guest, except for the summer, I couldn't get anyone to book. Not so surprising. So I said, I'm just going to do a relaxed hangout for the month. And I didn't work quite as hard, but I still had a hangout conversation. And then in September, one of the ones that I was working on for months and months and months was to get Kindle Direct Publishing on my show as the guest. so that I could really then attract in a whole lot of like audience book authors
Right.
to want to talk to Kindle Direct Publishing, because audience book authors don't want to talk to me. What do I know about book publishing? Nothing. I know nothing other than I put this show together.
Right.
But if I'm bringing Kindle Direct Publishing on my show, that's someone they really want to talk to. And so I had Kindle Direct Publishing booked, scheduled for September the 10th. I believe it's September. No, it would have been September 12th or 13th of 2013. And on a few days earlier, on September 10th, I received a phone call from my cousin who lived in San Diego saying he's near Toronto, where his brother, my cousin Steve, lives just north of the city where I am. And he said, Steve is in the hospital and he's going to die. And you need to get here. So, of course, I dropped everything and I went up to the hospital, and he passed away the next morning.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And I had my show scheduled for the Thursday. He passed away on September 11th. And then it was, I think that was Wednesday morning or Tuesday morning. And then I had my show scheduled for Thursday afternoon. And it was Kindle Direct Publishing. I'd been promoting them for weeks. And there was no way that I was going to be able to, I couldn't cancel the show because one of the things I want you to be aware of is you cannot reschedule an authority.
Yeah.
You have one shot with them. And if you don't, if it doesn't go well, you can try again later, but it will, it's never the same. So you never want to be the person to reschedule a show. If they have to reschedule a show, that's fine. It happens.
Yeah.
But you never want to be the one, because then you're really giving up your opportunity. And I hadn't even booked Kindle Direct Publishing on the show myself. They, again, were another guest that one of my show guests had connected with and said, listen, Debbie's show would be amazing for you. We'd love to have you on. And they came to me and said, hey, Debbie, would you like Kindle Direct Publishing on your show? And I'm like, yes. Yeah. And so I said to this person, Michael Procopio, who was actually, he was like my mentor at the time and joining my shows. He worked for HP in California, and I had reached out to him and said, I'm doing this show. I'd love to have you join me. And he was one of the very first book authors to join regularly with the celebrity guests. And so he had been on, I think, every episode that I had done from the very beginning. And so I said to him, Michael, you actually are the one who booked Kindle Direct Publishing. My brain is not working. There's, when you've lost someone that you love, you can't function. You're kind of a zombie. So I showed up, and I just explained that Michael was going to be my guest host. And I really let him take it over for me. And we were co-hosts, but he really led the conversation because I was just sitting there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cancel the show. I didn't want to be there. I couldn't talk. But life goes on, and I'm glad that I did it. I don't regret doing the show. I'm so glad that I did not have to do everything myself.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm so glad that there were other people that I could say, listen, I can't, like, if I have to do it myself, I'll have to cancel the show.
Yeah.
I'll have to cancel the episode. And I know, Michael was looking forward to having Kindle Direct Publishing that he had brought onto the show, and having the conversation with them. And I had other guests who were planning to come on. And so I said, I'm going to do the best that I can. I can't promise anything at all, but Michael's here to take it over. And he did an amazing job.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So you can keep that in mind. Yeah, I think really just think about the overall, like the important elements. What's an important element? And if you start sort of spinning about one particular thing, ask yourself, is it really critical to the end result?
Okay.
Like how many live audience or where am I going to promote it? Doesn't matter.
Right. Okay.
If that's too much for you, don't think about it until episode 3 or 4.
Okay.
Or don't think about it at all until after you're done recording. There's nothing wrong with recording your shows on a schedule that works for you and not even releasing them until you're ready.
Okay.
You can do that as well. It's more difficult because you don't have the shows out there giving visibility to the regular people and to the influencers and showing everyone that you're the person bringing them together.
Right.
That's why it works when you do it live every week. And especially when you let people join you live, there's a sense of, if I want to be on the show talking to the influencers, I have to attend this live show. So that's personally, I prefer doing it live and putting it out there each time. That's why I like a monthly show, because there just is not time to do a weekly show.
Yeah.
Like I struggle to do this weekly show along with the freebie every week. There's a lot of other things to do.
Yeah.
Right. So focus on it, and even if your planning document is very, very, very top line, just focus on what is the conversation that we want to have. What's the purpose? I want to inform people and make people aware of something. What is that I want to make them aware of? Who is a couple of key guests that I could have in at various levels of authority? Because your first couple of episodes, you might not be able to get anyone with much influence. Because most people with influence are going to want to see a few episodes of the show to know that it's the type of conversation that they want to participate and bring their authority to.
Right. Okay.
So just keep it really top line and think about your first show. The step I want you to take to really challenge yourself is to book a date.
Okay.
Because then you're forced. You book a date and commit to it. Put it out there on Facebook. I'm starting something new. I don't know how it's going to go. The first episode is going to be on this date.
Okay.
Right? Because then you're forced. And the good thing is, don't delay it, because if you delay it, then you end up putting in more time to this first episode, and the first episode is going to be crap. You need to get the first episode into your back pocket, done, into your past as quickly as you possibly can. Okay. So I want you to schedule the date for your first show in the next 30 days.
Okay.
And the very first thing you want to have just the subject matter. Here's the conversation we're going to have on the show. I don't know who's going to join me, but here's the conversation we're going to have. And I'm going to go out and start pitching people. Hey, do you want to join me on this conversation? My first episode of Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers, I didn't know where to meet other book authors other than locally. So I went to an event at the local library where they had a book author speaking, or they had, I think, 3 or 4 book authors speaking, a panel of book authors. And I went and spoke to them. And one of the panel, I said, listen, I'm doing this show on Thursday night. It's going to be a live stream. And this was all very new technology at the time. I said, would you like to join us? She wasn't able to join us for that episode, but she became a guest very soon after.
Okay.
And I basically just reached out to all the book authors that I knew who were important on this subject. And I implore you to do the same. Once you have that one paragraph or 3 or 4 sentences that talks about this is what we're talking about on the first episode or on the series as a whole. I don't know what the first episode is really going to be about, but the series is going to address this. Once you have that, I want you to create a list of 8 or 10 book authors who discuss this subject matter.
Okay.
Right? So when you look for a therapist who deals with gun violence trauma, look for the therapist who has written a book on gun violence trauma. Because the therapist who has written a book on gun violence trauma wants to promote the book and is used to already, they're exercised at promoting the book and talking about gun violence trauma. A therapist who is not a book author is going to be less experienced and less comfortable, and they'll be harder for you to book. It doesn't mean that they're worse guests or not as valuable, or that you don't want to reach out to them and establish a relationship. But for the first episode, you want to have other people there. You want to have other guests, even if they're at the same level as you and they're not celebrity guests yet. You want to have them there so that you get used to being the host and having other people take the main position, the star position of the show. So that you're practicing it and reaching out to the book authors. Book authors always, always, always want more opportunity to promote their books.
Okay.
Everybody else at every other organization and every other position, it's not really their job to go on shows. And it might not be something they're comfortable with. It might be something that takes some conversation, some convincing.
Yeah. Okay.
So what else do you think?
Huh?
Do you feel good about it? Do you have other questions, concerns?
I'm nervous.
Nervous,
you know,
but
it's because it's new. You know, it's new.
and I get nervous every single time.
Yeah. So I'm just nervous and just the thought of what do you say, like set a date within the next 30 days. It just kind of gave me anxiety. Just
Oh, but that's what puts you on the path to actually taking the steps. Because if you don't set the date, either one of 2 things is going to happen: is you will be less prepared than you could be, and you will be like, I'm not as prepared as I want to be on the day of your live show, which is never a good feeling.
yes.
Or 2, you will delay the show, which is bad. There's absolutely no value in planning a show and then not doing it.
Not doing it.
Right?
Yes, but yes.
I think like even with my book authors and talking about like launch parties, I tell them like never cancel a launch party. You can do a second launch party, but don't cancel the launch party because you will never do it again. Like you'll never make it as good as it could have been the first time.
Yeah.
And if you do it twice, then it can be better. The second time it can be improved. But if you just delay it, then you're just delaying it. then you're just waiting for no reason.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm going to commit to it because that's one of the things, you know, as far as my goals and things going into next year. It's just, you know, sticking to it, you know, put it out there. And like you're saying, just go for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you're gonna
you
sink or
will
swim.
not fail. I'm telling you, The worst thing that will happen is you'll be like, well, I didn't put as much work into it.
Mhm.
And therefore I didn't get such big results.
Right.
So the next episode, I'm going to put in more work and I'll see more results.
Yes.
That's the whole thing. And I don't know how much time you have available on a daily or weekly basis. So I want this to be something that can fit in very easily and be flexible for you.
Right.
So really just focus on the top line, and don't worry about people saying yes or no or about the show.
Mhm.
The purpose of you reaching out to people is that you reach out to them with something that is not for sale.
Right. I
And
get that
that's
part,
it.
yeah.
It's literally a reason for you to pick up the phone and call them and say, hi, my name is Sabrina. I'm a book author. I don't want to take up more than a few minutes of your time today. I just want to let you know I've got a show coming up with a really important conversation. And I'd love to see if anyone at your organization has 15 minutes to join us on that day to contribute some thoughts to the conversation. And they might say no, but they probably most likely will not be rude.
Mhm.
And they will say, thank you for letting us know about it. And please keep in touch.
Mhm.
And that's the whole purpose. That is the entire 100% of the purpose. Does not matter whether or not they ever come on your show.
Right.
The whole point is you have a reason to reach out to these people, and the phone call itself will be of value to them because they're working on this same topic. This message is important to them.
Mhm.
So what you're doing is important to them, and they want to know about it. And all you're doing is saying, I just want to make sure you're aware. And if you have time, if you want to participate, I would love to have you. If not, I'll reach out to you in a few months when we've got some new stuff.
Yeah. I like it. Makes
Right.
sense.
So and they might, like worst case scenario, they're a little bit like distracted, rude, rushed, whatever.
Mhm.
That's fine. You send them a quick follow-up email saying, here's some other conversations that I thought, were interesting, that are inspiring me. I'd love to see you there. If not, I totally understand. You're very, very busy. I'd love
Mhm.
to have you attend future episodes. And I'm planning to do 6 episodes in this series once a month. I'll send you the schedule if you're interested.
Yeah.
Right? All you're doing is informing them, and it's their job to be aware of these sorts of things.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. I like it. I can do it.
I know you can. I'm super excited about this for you.
Yeah.
I want to encourage you to share what you're doing and what you're working on, and what you create in the private group.
Okay.
You can share anything you want in the public group, of course. In the private group, we'll dive in deeper. But the public group it will give you that much more feedback from different people.
Okay.
Who are book authors as well. And there may be some other authors for your subject
Mhm.
in either in the private group or in the public group. So feel free to post.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking after you said, just maybe see, because I know in the other authors group that we're in with Jay, um, I know it was a few
Yeah.
people in there that was therapists that's wrote
Yeah.
a book.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
so I'm
Definitely.
gonna go back there and post,
Definitely.
to see if any of them will be interested in coming on.
Absolutely. There
Yeah.
are so many, like I'm very new to these book author groups and the
Hmm.
children's book author groups because I'm not. But I really, like, there are a lot I'm seeing, especially in those children's book author groups. There are therapists, there are professionals in every walk of profession that have
Hmm.
written children's books on their subject matter.
Mhm.
And all you have to do is post in that group saying, you know, here's the date. I've made a commitment. I'm launching a new series. It's starting on this date. I'm looking for guests. I'm looking for experts who want to contribute either your personal story with trauma and gun violence and how it impacted your children and your family, and therapists and other professionals who also who help people with this trauma and gun violence. And see who responds, and say also, I would love to have any of you join in the audience if you want to be a viewer.
Yeah.
And just
Okay.
see how many people respond. I'm excited to see you post this. If you can tag me on it.
Oh, I will. I will. I will. Most definitely.
I want to see it. Or yeah, I mean, tag me or don't tag me. Put me in the comments. Like you don't have to feature me in any way.
Yeah.
But I want to see the conversation. It will happen. It happens very easily once you're focused.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the purpose of the conversation, and you know that this conversation is unique-ish, it will flow for you, and you'll still be nervous every time, but not too bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds
good. Well, I appreciate it. Again, as always, another great session.
Awesome. I'm glad. Is it really a problem for you that I